Okay, so in lesson 11, we're going to be determining the surface area of rectangular prisms and cubes using a formula. So we're going to start just with a little review here. We're given this net, and we're going to pretend that this is a 12 by 8 by 4 rectangular prism. So what we're going to do is see how we can label this net. Again, just looking at the lengths, I see this side is fairly long, this side is fairly short, and then I have that kind of middle in between size there. So that's going to help me to see that this one would most likely be the 12, this would be the 4, and then this would be the 8. So now just to kind of look at labeling, if this side of a rectangle is 12, that means this would be 12, which means this side would also be 12, which means this side would also be 12, and this side would be 12. So all down the center, I should have the same number. Now, if this is 4, that means this is 4. If this is 8, that means this is 8. It also means that this is 8, and if this is 8 right here, this would also be 8. If this is 4, based on rectangular prism, this would also be 4. Now something to know too, if this is going to be 4, this also would have to be 4 because they would fold up into one another and they need to be the same length. So these two sides should always be the same. And then this, it goes the same way here. This would also be 4. Same over here as well. If this is 4, this would have to be 4. If this is 4, this is 4, which means this would also have to be 4. Okay, and then we have 8 here, so this would have to be the 8, as would this one. So just to help you for a quick labeling, down the center you should have the same number. Down the side it should alternate with the other two measurements, so 4, 8, 4, 8. And then these sides should always match. Okay, so if we want to find the surface area of this, I would find the area of each. So this is a 12 by 4, so 12 by 4 would be 48. This would be a 12 by 8, which would be a 96. Another 12 by 4, which is a 48. Another 12 by 8, which would be another 96. On the sides, we have 8 times 4, which is 32. 8 times 4, which is 32. Okay, so we would be adding our 48 plus our 96 plus our 48 plus our 96 plus our 32 plus our 32 to get our surface area. In this case, when we add all of these together, we get 352 square units. Okay, so that's kind of how you would label the net based on the dimensions. Okay, so again, same all the way down the side. Other two dimensions alternate down, and then make sure that these flaps match up. Find the area of each surface and then add them together to find the total surface area. Okay, so for the next piece, what it's asking us to do is to find, complete the table, and it also wants us to draw a net. So it's asking us for the area of the bottom, the area of the top, the front, the back, the left side, and the right side. So just looking at this, this would be considered our top. Just the way we're looking, this would be our front. And then this would be a side. Okay? So when we go to draw our net, I'm going to draw it like this. I always draw the same typical looking net. Now, I know it's very difficult to make these size-wise correctly, so I'm not too much of a stickler. If you look at the dimensions of the rectangular prism, I just really want you to be able to label your net with the dimensions. So I usually take the long side here, so the 15, and I would run it all the way down the center. And then the 8 should typically look a little longer than the 6, but again, as long as you're labeling correctly, I'm okay with the dimensions being a little bit off, not to scale. So I would just alternate these two, the 8 and the 6 down the side. So maybe I start with the 6 and then 8, 6, and then 8. And then also remember that my flap should match. So if this is 6, this should also be 6. If this is 8, then this is 8. And then over on the other side, if this side is 6, this would be 6, which means this side would be 6. The 8 then continues across the way as well. Okay, so our front, or I guess we're starting with the bottom, and the top, which would be the same. Our top and our bottom would be the same. Our top is this by this. If this is 15, this is 15. If this is 6, then this would be 6. So our top and our bottom are the same, and they would both be 15 times 6, or a length times our width. So again, the top and the bottom are the same dimensions in a box if you think about it. So if I have 15 times 6, I wind up with 90 for both of those. Now for the front and the back, they'll also be the same. This would be my front, and on the opposite side of the back, I would have the exact same sized rectangle. And this is a 15 by 8. So this length is 15, this is 8. So I would do 15 times 8 for both the area of the front and the area of the back. So this would give me 120 for each of those. Okay, and then for the two sides, again, the sides will be the same length. It is a 6 by 8 rectangle. So both of those would be 48. So in order to find the surface area of these, I would have to add all of those areas together. So I'm going to add my 90 plus my 90 plus my 120 plus my 120 plus my 48 plus my 48. Now hopefully you've started to notice that there's 2 of each number. So I could do 90 plus 90, but I could also do 2 times 90. I can do 120 plus 120. I could also do 2 times 120. I could do 48 plus 48, but I could also do 2 times 48. And this is where our formula is going to start to come into play, which we'll come up with at the end of this lesson. But if I do these two things, or do these together, I would have my 180 here, my 240 here, and my 96 here. And then I would add each of these together to get my surface area of 516 square centimeters. Okay, so that is how I would find the surface area. Okay, so let's look at another one, and then we're going to come up with a formula for the surface area of a rectangular prism. So with the next one, once again, they want us to draw the net and fill out the table. We've got our front, our top, and our side. Again, just looking at the dimensions, I always draw my 4 rectangles down the center with my 2 coming off the sides here. Again, I'm not too specific that it's to scale as long as you have numbers in the correct place. That's what's important to me at this point. So I have 20, I have 9, and I have 5. So I always run the largest number down the center just because that typically tends to be the longer side in my drawings. And then I would alternate the other 2 down the side. So 9, 5, 9, 5. If this is 9, this has to be 9. If this is 5, that means that this is 5 and this is 5. If this is 9, then this must also be 9. Okay, so our bottom and our top are going to be the same. So if we use our top, this is going to be the same length as this, which is 20. This is going to be the same length as this, which would be 5. So it's a 20 by 5 rectangle, or 100 for each of those. Okay, and then for the front, we've got 20 by this. Now this is the same side as this, so that's showing me the 9 there. So this would be 20 times 9, or 180. Same with the back, it would be the same exact dimensions. And then for the left side or the right side, whichever case we're looking at here, they're both the same. I would have 5 by 9. Okay, so if I wanted to find the surface area, once again I could add them all together, 100 plus 100 plus 180 plus 180 plus 45 plus 45, or I can take my areas and multiply them by 2 and then add them together. Okay, so I would get, I'm kind of smushed here, 200 plus 360 plus 90, add them all together, and get 650. And it's square centimeters. All right, so is there a formula that can be used instead of drawing a net every time? And with a rectangular prism, there actually is. So if you notice, what we did is to find our surface area, which we would write as SA, we took the area of the bottom and multiplied it by 2 because there's a top and a bottom. We took the area of the front and the back. We multiplied that area by 2 because there's a front and a back. We took the area of one of the sides, multiplied it by 2 because there's 2 of the same exact size. So in terms of numbers here, if this is considered to be my length, this is considered to be my width, and this is considered to be my height, when I found the area of the bottom, I would be doing the length times the width. If I was doing, and that went the same for the top. If I was finding the area of the front, I did the length times the height. And if I were doing the area of the sides, I did the width times the height. So, in other words, I'm going to do 2 of these. So I'm going to do 2 times the length times the width. And I'm taking out the multiplication symbol and just writing it length width, plus 2 times the length times the height. And you don't have to have the parentheses here, I'm just putting them in, plus 2 times the width times the height. So that would be our surface area formula. What I would expect to see for your steps is I would expect to see the plugging in. So 2 times length times width would be 20 times 5, plus 2 times the length times the height, or 20 times 9, plus 2 times the width times the height, or 5 times 9. Okay, and then just showing the process as you work through. I personally would break it down like this. You can just kind of multiply at the same time. And then keep breaking it down until you get your surface area. Okay, so this is the formula you can use for the surface area of a rectangular prism. Again, you're doing 2 times length times width, plus 2 times length times height, plus 2 times width times height.